The Dalata Hotel Group GAA Under-20 Football Championship.
On Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Dalata Hotel Group.
Well, we had a great week of action in the Dalata Hotel Group Under-20 Football Championship, with all four of the provincial finals taking place. Louth made their historic breakthrough in Leinster. Mayo came good in Connacht. Tyrone squeezed past Donegal and Ulster, and then down south Kerry continued their dominance with the defeat of Cork in the final in the Munster Championship. And the Dalata Hotel Group GAA Under-20 Football Championship on Off the Ball is brought to you by Dalata Hotel Group, #Difference Makers. And to chat through all of the action that we watched during the week, delighted to say that we have the former Sligo footballer Neil Ewing with us on the line. Neil, how are things with you?
Hi Cathal, how are things? How are you?
All good, thanks, Neil. We'll try not to turn this into a podcast about the Sligo Senior Football League maybe for the next few minutes, but
we won't go there yet.
It's been a great week, hasn't it, in the Under-20 Championship, Neil? 4 great finals. What stood out for you from the 4 finals, would you say?
Great to have the 4 finals in 1 week. It really created a bit of momentum. Probably an opportunity there to spread them out even more across the week, so you could watch all. We ended up Wednesday night with 3 finals on similar time. But that said, the talent on show, the games, some really, really excellent stuff. The one that stood out, you just have to say, is the Leinster final. Amazing stuff from Louth. 44-year gap to their last title at this age group. But I think what's really remarkable is that this group, probably took a lot of defeats at minor level. Last year, Louth Under-20s took a very heavy defeat to a Dublin team. Phenomenal to end that 44-year wait. And the way that they did it, there was just a swagger about them. It was really enjoyable to watch. You could just tell, very well coached. They all knew what they were doing, played with real purpose, but not overly structured either. They just had the skill to play a little bit off the cuff when they needed to. So phenomenal achievement for Louth. And just a team that a county that's probably on a bit of a high from their seniors can really get behind. Just the way that they play, that excitement is made for the buzz that's in Louth at the minute. Yeah,
I think one of the things, I don't know what you thought, Neil, but the scoring from that match, 219 to 115 that Louth won by in Newbridge on Wednesday night, the level and the standard of the scores that they got was something else.
Yeah, and it was probably, Louth's conversion rate, or their ability to take some of those scores from distance that made the difference in the end. Into the second half, Louth kicked, I think, 8 points on the trot to pull away a little bit early on in the second half. And then, Meath had a lot of efforts probably coming into the last third of the game where they were forcing 2-pointers. But yeah, some phenomenal scores. And, I will say Meath forced 2-pointers. It has to be remarked. Michael McIver, Meath midfielder, kicked a beautiful point, 2-pointer outside the right foot as well in that period. So, I guess just the bravery, the exuberance of some of the players on both sides to go for stuff was really commendable.
And does that feed into it, Neil? Obviously, you played at under-21 level for Sligo, but you mentioned the countywide feel-good factor now in Louth with the progression towards the Leinster final, and things have been going well for them at senior level over the last couple of years. Does that feed in then to an under-20 or 21 team, do you think?
Yeah, to be honest, Cathal, I think it really has a huge impact. I suppose around my own time at under-20, under-21 at the time, it would have been just off the back of Sligo winning a Connacht title in 2007. So definitely, you see that even among your group of friends, there's a huge wish to be involved. It's, for want of a better term, it's cool to be involved. But I think we've seen it in a number of counties across the country as well. Like, you look at Donegal, they're in an Ulster under-21 or under-20 final this year. Their academy, there's been nothing but bad news about that over in the last 3 or 4 years. But Jim McGuinness has went in there, and he hasn't had involvement with their under-20 team, but it's just made being involved with the team a popular thing for young guys to do. There hasn't been, any negative noises around the Donegal Academy. You see some faces getting involved at the academy again. Carl Lacey probably back involved in some way there as well. So, you've seen the impact there in Donegal. But I think it's probably understated as well, the impact of the Louth seniors in the last few years, not just this year. So obviously they've got to a Leinster final now, But I think since Mickey Hart came in there in Louth, it probably reflected a county that wanted to change the way they were doing things, but not just at senior level, at all levels. They went out there, they got an All-Ireland winner, put him in charge of their team, standards rose at senior level. And I think it's something you see now with centres of excellence. Every county maybe having centralised training facilities. These young guys are going in, they're seeing the preparation that Mickey Hart and the senior team are doing, and the coaches of these underage teams are seeing that as well, and it really starts to filter down. So I think it was the foresight of maybe County Board in Louth to go out, get a Mickey Hart at that time, put the right people involved with their underage team, is coming to fruition now with this under-20 win.
Yeah, certainly has, and they'll be hoping to add to it with the senior game coming up on Sunday week as well. In terms of the Donegal story, you mentioned it there, Neil. They lost out in the end to Tyrone. That was a cracking match in the Ulster final as well. It went extra time. Tyrone won it by 119 to 214 in the end. Tyrone have put together a really good run at under 20 level in the last few years. What would you put that down to? Is it similar to the Louth story and getting their overall house in order, if you like?
Yeah, it's similar. Tyrone's house is definitely in order. I guess the difference with Tyrone is their house has been in order for a long, long time. And I think Ulster counties, not just Tyrone, but Tyrone are probably to the forefront of it, or were to the forefront of it. There's just a passion for... There's a different level of passion for everything Gaelic football up there, but that is particularly seen, I think, in their appetite for advancing as coaches, and you see it in their secondary schools. You've seen schools from Derry, from Tyrone. They've produced some phenomenal Hogan Cup teams that have went on to win All-Irelands. Even the McCrory Cup in Ulster, it just carries a different level of weight. There's more schools performing at a higher level than there is in all the other provinces. The other provinces are throwing out good teams, but it's not as competitive within the province. But yeah, Tyrone, they're probably the example for a lot of counties right back to when they started winning under 21 All-Irelands, and I guess right back to Cormac McAnallen's time, and that group of players that came through at that time, they were to the forefront of everything Tyrone were doing in underage. That was it when it first came to the boil, and they've just continued that on since. They've won 5 of the last 7 Ulster titles, and just the players they're throwing out, top quality players, and they've probably pulled up the level of coaching, the level of underage football right across Ulster. You see Derry producing All-Ireland winning underage teams in recent years as well. Donegal competitive, Monaghan, always producing a few players there. So, yeah, I think Tyrone are just a good... They've been the standard setters in Ulster, but they've pulled up guys with them, and it's really exciting to see what these guys are going to do at senior level, because you have Malachy O'Rourke in there. Malachy O'Rourke has a proven track record of overachieving with maybe less fashionable counties, and he has a great senior squad at the minute. But when you see some of these players that are coming through, it's just going to be very interesting to watch what he does in the next few years with them. Yeah,
it is, and that's an interesting point as well, Neil, in terms of the challenge for counties to bring players through from underage level. And we'll talk about the Connacht final in a minute between Mayo and Roscommon, but the Connacht Championship was probably notable in that Galway, who did so well at minor level with that bunch of players that they had, failed to finish in the top 3. Does that show the challenge of trying to bring players through from that under 17 to under 20, and then obviously it's another big jump from 20s up to senior?
Yeah, and let's be honest, it's a tricky period in anyone's life. There's a lot of change, and it's a tricky period in anyone's sporting life. Maybe for a bit of context, I remember one of my years under 21, it would have been the year I got asked into the senior panel. We had a defeat to Roscommon at the weekend in the Connacht semi-final. We were 10 points up, threw it away. I won't get into that. But there was some drowning of sorrows afterwards. The game was on a Saturday, and I was on the Aran Islands on a Wednesday when I got a phone call from the Sligo senior manager at the time. So I think if you try to fill in the gaps between what happened after the game on Saturday and the Wednesday on the Aran Islands, you'll understand some of the challenges. Yeah. Definitely, it's a tricky period. But I think counties have got a lot more proactive as well in how they approach that period in players' lives. There's a different attitude now to S&C from 13, 14 right the way up. There's a different approach to development squads and keeping guys. Often I think you would have seen maybe weaker years, for want of a better term, at underage level, right up to 10 years ago, that guys would maybe drift from a panel. So maybe in your bad year for minor, your bad year or two for under 21, the guys wouldn't be involved with a county panel. But now counties are keeping those players in development squads, and it's ensuring that there's just a wide pipeline of players coming through ready to be senior intercounty footballers, I guess, physically and skills wise. And that's probably where you see the issue, not the issue, but where maybe Galway were caught by Mayo this year. It's not that maybe those Galway guys have gone back particularly or to a huge extent. It's just that Mayo have probably closed the gap a little bit. They were never far away. Went down to Tuam in the first round of the Connacht Championship, beat them, and then Galway were scrambling after that. So I think the level has risen across all counties, and particularly in the counties with maybe a smaller pick. As you get closer to, or as the ages move up, you're seeing a leveling out as well. So, that's why you're seeing maybe Roscommon more competitive at under 20 than they may have been at minor level as well.
Yeah, and the Connacht Championship is obviously the round robin format now as well. It's been very competitive in the last few years, but Mayo's record hasn't been great at under 21 level or under 20 level as it is in the last few years, Neil. But they did come back this year to win the title in pretty impressive fashion as well. That was a cracking match during the week.
Oh, it was a belter of a game. I can't think of a better word than that to describe it. It was the sort of game, if you took your eye off it for 30 seconds, you had missed a lot, or you had to do a double take on the scoreline to see was that actually correct or what had happened there. Credit to both teams. And even if the FRC want an example of a game where the rules have made a hugely positive impact, they should be picking out clips from this game. I think, right from the first minute, teams were looking to kick through the middle third, which was, so encouraging to see, guys winning the ball in a full back line, half back line, and then their first thought was to kick the ball. And, it wasn't that they were just lumping ball either. They were passes, nice little bounce into the chest of the forward running out. And maybe it's just myself, but what I found particularly enjoyable is that both full back lines were, despite getting absolutely peppered with ball, were outstanding. Any ball the forwards are winning, they were winning under pressure. There was a few times, and it's something that probably disappeared from the game in recent years, but there was a cornerback just getting 2 or 3 yards out in front, and it was a foot race to the ball. Just hugely enjoyable to watch. And, the scoreline, 2-17 to 4-8, suggests an exciting game. There was a lot of goal chances missed, and even down to the right into injury time, Roscommon had a goal controversially disallowed for a high ball. Would have won them the game the way it played out. But it just summed up the madness of the game. Both teams just going for it, and Mayo not successful at this level in recent years, but I suppose from knowing the caliber of people involved with their management team, Ger Cafferty, a guy I know, if he's involved with a management team, I know that team are going to be prepped to within an inch of their lives. And there's probably a focus on developing future senior players as well. And, if they can win titles while doing that, I'd imagine Ger and the guys there, that would be at the forefront of their mind as well. Not solely the titles, but developing senior players that can hopefully or hopefully not win an All-Ireland for Mayo in years to come.
Yeah, well, certainly they certainly have some good forwards in that team. You mentioned, Neil, there just the defending in some of those matches. You're obviously a defender for most of your career in the full back line. Would you like to be playing under these new rules, or do you think it would make it more difficult, or how would you have had to adapt your game maybe from when you were playing to now to kind of adjust to the new rules?
Well, I definitely think the first few years of a career there probably was something akin to the new rules where you didn't have too many sweepers sitting in. And Colin, if I'm very honest with you, it was one of the scariest things in life playing in a full back line when this green space opened up in front of you. Would I like to be playing it now? If I could move a bit better, I definitely would like to be playing it now, because as scary as it is, it's unbelievably exciting. It's man on man, and there's a psychological battle, there's a physical battle, there's a there's a concentration battle, and I think concentration is a skill in the full back line that's completely underrated. And trying to maybe think one play ahead of where the kick's going to come from, where the kick's going to go to, and where you're positioning yourself versus where the forward wants to run to. And I'll be honest with you, there is no better feeling than judging a kick or being like half a step ahead in the kick, getting out in front and getting a hand to a ball, knocking it away from a forward. It's primal, but it's very, very enjoyable.
It is, yeah. And in terms of that then, Neil, do you have to gamble a little bit more than when you're one-on-one inside in terms of maybe position yourself a yard or two in front of the forward, or how would you go about it?
Oh, yeah, it's a great question. And it's a great question because there's so many things to think about and so many ways to answer about it. I would say it depends, which is a non-answer answer, but so many factors. I think for me, one was always the wind. That was a big one. And maybe it was played a lot of games on the West Coast. Kevin Walsh was our coach with Sligo shortly after I joined the senior panel, and his big thing was to play in front. And by playing in front, he didn't mean 1 yard in front, he meant 10 yards in front, and he'd keep telling you to go in front, even further in front. And I learned a lot from that because, and maybe it says something about what we were doing in Sligo at the time, but that was the first time I'd ever been coached to defend like that. But he gave you license to play 10, 15 metres in front. And that was great if you were playing with the wind because it allowed you to drag the forward out the pitch. You go 15 metres in front, the forward comes a bit closer to you because he knows he's not an option for a kick pass. Repeat that 3-4 times, he ends up very close to the halfway line. And at that point, if he wins a kick there, you're happy enough because he has a ball on the halfway line playing into him. Playing against the wind, you're gambling. And it's, you're playing Russian roulette a lot of the time. There's probably 9 kicks that you've covered and you're going to get out in front for, and there's 1 kick that you really do not hope that the halfback or the midfielder in the opposition team can pick out. And if they do, it's possibly goal.
Yeah.
But if you don't position yourself there, maybe you're losing 5-6 ball out in front that are a point. So it's I think it's understated the enjoyment that you can get from playing in the full back line.
Yeah, for sure. And talking of defenders in Tomás O'Shea and Kerry, they're going well in Munster. I think it's 4 in a row for them now, 3 in a row for Tomás O'Shea as manager. They haven't quite cracked the All-Ireland yet, but have you seen enough from them, Neil, to suggest that they might be able to do it this time around?
Definitely seen enough from them. Just the worry is the strength of Munster and the strength of the test that they've been getting in Munster. And they had, you imagine Cork are going to be their biggest challenge. They played Cork in the group stage, beat them pretty comfortably. Played Cork in the final, beat them pretty comfortably. And it was just the nature of the way they beat them. They were never in a battle. They were never tested. You look at, Tyrone, who are going to face in the semi-final. Tyrone have been prodded inside out. Tyrone know every weakness that they have at this point, or the majority of weaknesses that they have. Kerry really don't know where they're at. Cork didn't test them. Cork needed a controversial last-minute point to get over Tipperary to get into the final to play Kerry again. So I think if I'm Tomás O'Shea, I'm very worried about not being tested. I can't imagine they've been able to play challenge games against teams from outside the province in the last few weeks of the round robin series. He's not going to be getting any in the next week. Are your internal games of a high enough standard to test you? They're not, because no matter how good they are, there's an element of falseness to them. It's just not the same. In the white heat of battle, there's a dryness in the mouth playing championship that you don't get in an A versus B game of training. So I think that's going to be a big worry for Kerry. But do they have the talent? Absolutely. I think Paddy Lane inside, he's done some phenomenal scoring for Kerry underage for his school team as well. Eddie Healy midfield for them is another one to watch for the seniors as well. There's great talent there. And I shouldn't ever feel sorry for Kerry football team, but if they go out against Tyrone next week, I'd just be very interested in the first 10-15 minutes. Do they go 3, 4, 5 points behind and then they end up maybe a point down coming into injury time because they weren't ready for those 10 or 15 minutes of battle at the start?
Yeah, it should be an interesting semi-final. And you mentioned the pairing there, Tyrone against Kerry and then Mayo Louth on the other side of the draw. Tyrone coming in off the back of that Ulster campaign, does that give them a little bit of an advantage given how difficult it is to come through that province at any level, and not to mind at under 20 level?
Yeah, I think it gives them an advantage for sure. There's just nothing better than playing a game, getting a test. And even, if you want to look at Tyrone's capacity to learn, they went to Ballybofey in the group stages. They were beaten. Probably beaten because they fell into, I don't want to say the trap. Well, it is the trap that Donegal had set up to lure Tyrone in, take the ball off them, counter-attack and score. Incredibly clever, incredibly good coaching. But Tyrone would have been disappointed that they got caught so often. They learned from that, went on, played a Derry side in the semi-final. Very, very fancy Derry team. Ironed out some of their problems from the Donegal game, got through that encounter, and then played Donegal again. And they played Donegal on their terms this time. And it meant that the Ulster final was a lot different to the Connacht final or the Leinster final. It was, reluctant to use the phrase, it was a cagey affair. But it was a cagey affair because both teams were so impeccably prepared. And both teams knew just how dangerous the other team was on the counter-attack. And that's going to happen, old rules or new rules. But Tyrone, they got it into extra time, went 7 ahead in extra time. Donegal pushed back, but they just showed that they had another level. I guess one interesting thing from that final was around the 60-minute mark, you could just tell the level of preparation that went into both teams by both teams' management. I guess it was a level game, approaching the hooter 2 minutes at a time, and Tyrone had the ball, and they just kept the ball until it was close to the clock. They got a shot away, it went wide. But you could tell Tyrone were just trying to drag a Donegal player out of position in those last 10, 15 seconds. Donegal knew exactly where Tyrone were going to shoot from, who the danger men were. So it was just that cat and mouse game. I think even probably a watch out for senior championship in the next few weeks as well, or the All-Ireland series. It's a little bit false, or it's not too enjoyable if a team is keeping a ball for 2-3 minutes, waiting for a hooter to try and get a shot away. But I guess it just tells you the level of coaching and the level of detail that's put into it by these teams. Yeah,
and just on a wider point, Neil, before we finish up, I guess the new rules obviously have breathed a new life into Gaelic football at all levels, but there's just something about this year's under-20 championship. Maybe it's the combination of the new rules, and maybe younger players tend to be that little bit more carefree. Maybe, and the games are a little bit looser than they might be at senior level. But it feels to me anyway that it's been a really good championship all round in the 4 provinces so far. Would you go along with that?
Definitely, yeah. The new rules have to have had an impact, and I guess probably under 20 teams or maybe less prepared for the new rules than some of the senior teams would be as well, and that they maybe get less time together. It's probably harder to get as many collective training sessions if guys are maybe spread out at college, etc. Challenge games probably harder to get, and they become a bit open anyways, and probably a lot of coaches as well not as familiar with the rules. So yeah, it's been great to see. I don't know, probably the abiding memory for me of the championship so far will just be the smiles on the face of the Louth players after their win in Meath, and they kind of played with that smile throughout the game, and it just reflected everything that you want in Gaelic football, really, and not just under 20 football. It was guys playing with a bit of abandon, playing with a smile on their faces, achieving something that hadn't been achieved in a long time. No limit on their expectations or their ambitions, willing to push the new levels, not hindered by history. And, on that, there's a brilliant photo. It appeared in Thursday's Irish Examiner. It was 4 or 5 of the Louth players after the game celebrating with the cup, and in the middle of them is their teacher who was wearing a Meath jersey, and it turns out she had a son playing on the Meath team, but she has a big smile on her face, and it showed it. It was an immense battle. Louth and Meath players put everything they had into it, but to see the Louth guys smiling, their teacher in the Meath jersey, smiling with them afterwards. That's what football can be. That's what football should be.
Yeah, for sure. Neil, that's a good way to finish. And the Dalata Hotel Group GAA Under-20 Football Championship and Off the Ball is brought to you by Dalata Hotel Group, #Difference Makers. Neil, thanks very much for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks very much, Carl.
The Dalata Hotel Group GAA Under-20 Football Championship
on Off the Ball.
brought to you by Dalata Hotel Group.